The storm came without warning. Dark clouds gathered over the alien colony world, and the sky turned almost black. Heavy rain fell in sheets, striking the metal roof of the outpost like 1,000 hammers. Inside the outpost, alarms rang, red lights flashing against the walls. Floodwaters were rising fast, swallowing the land around them. Ethan, the human explorer, stood by a cracked window. He had traveled far from Earth to study this strange planet, never expecting to face such a storm. Water rushed past the outpost, carrying broken trees, pieces of machines, and shattered parts of the colony. The structure shook under the pressure. If the water climbed any higher, the whole building would collapse. He turned quickly when he heard a voice. It wasn't human. Standing at the far end of the room was a girl, slender, tall, with glowing silver eyes and dark blue skin. Her long hair, wet from the rain, clung to her face. She was an alien, one of the very species his people were told never to trust. Her name, he later learned, was Lyra. At first, both of them froze. They had seen each other earlier during the evacuation, but neither expected to be trapped together now. Humans and her kind were not allies. They had always lived in tension, with mistrust and small conflicts in the shadows of peace treaties. But the storm didn't care about politics. The outpost groaned, and water seeped through the cracks. "We cannot stay here," Lyra said, her voice calm but urgent. She spoke in broken human language, yet clear enough for Ethan to understand. Ethan nodded. "I know. The whole place is going to drown." For a brief moment their eyes met. Either wanted this, but survival left no choice. They had to move together. The outpost shook again, metal beams bending with the force of the flood. The floor trembled under their boots. Ethan grabbed a flashlight from his belt and pointed it toward the hallway. The emergency power was failing. Red lights flickered and then died. Leaving only the thin beam of his flashlight, they waded through knee-deep water, moving as fast as they could. Every step was slow, every sound of rushing water louder than before. Somewhere behind them, a wall gave way, and a wave crashed into the corridor, almost knocking them off their feet. Lyra reached out instinctively and caught Ethan's arm, pulling him back to balance. Her grip was strong, stronger than any human's. For a second, Ethan forgot she was supposed to be the enemy. She had just saved him. "Move," she shouted, pointing toward a heavy door ahead. They pushed it open together, the water pressing hard against it. On the other side was a stairway leading down. But as soon as they stepped in, they realized the danger. The lower level was already flooding. Water swirled, rising fast, almost to the ceiling. "There's no way down," Ethan muttered, frustrated. Lyra looked up. "Then we go up." The roof was their only chance. Together, they climbed the emergency ladder, leading higher. Rain and thunder echoed above them. The building shuddered again as more of the lower levels collapsed. Each step on the ladder felt like time running out. When they finally pushed open the hatch, cold rain hit their faces. The storm outside was worse than inside. Waves rolled across the flooded colony, smashing against broken towers. The wind howled, almost strong enough to throw them off balance. They crouched low, gripping the roof to stay steady. Ethan scanned the horizon. There was no land in sight, no safety, only endless dark water stretching far in every direction. The colony was gone, swallowed by the flood. "We're trapped," Ethan whispered. Lyra shook her head. "Not trapped. Alive. That is enough for." Now, her calm tone surprised him. Even in this chaos, she was steady, focused. Ethan looked at her again, noticing how the rain slid down her strange skin, glowing faintly under each flash of lightning. She looked otherworldly, and yet here she was, as real as him, fighting to survive. Suddenly a loud crack split the air. The roof tilted under them. The outpost's supports were breaking apart, at only seconds before the building collapsed. "Entirely this way," Ethan shouted, spotting a broken antenna tower still standing nearby. If they could reach it, maybe they could climb higher. Above the wainer, the jump was deadly. The flood was deadly. The flood raged below, ready to swallow anything that fell. Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes glowing in the storm. Jump together, Ethan hesitated. Trusting her went against everything he was taught. But here, in the heart of the storm, he had no choice. He had to act as one. They counted to 3 and leapt. The wind tore at them, the rain blinded them, and for a heartbeat it felt like falling into endless death. But their hands found the metal bars of the antenna. Clinging with all their strength, water surged below, crashing against the collapsing outpost. The building groaned one last time before breaking apart completely, swallowed by the flood. Clinging to the antenna, soaked and trembling, Ethan and Lyra realized a truth neither wanted to admit. Alone, they would have already died. Together, they had survived at least for now, but the storm was far from over. The storm raged through the night. Hours felt like days as Ethan and Lyra clung to the antenna tower, shivering under the endless rain. Lightning cracked across the sky, showing a sea of destruction below. The outpost was gone, the colony erased. Only broken pieces floated in the dark waters. At last, the storm began to fade. The rain softened, and the violent winds slowed into heavy silence. Both of them were exhausted, their bodies numb from cold. Ethan's hands ached from gripping the slippery metal. Lyra's silver eyes were half closed, but she held on with stubborn strength. When morning came, the world looked strange. Mist rolled over the endless water. From far away, Ethan noticed something an opening in the surface, like a hole pulling water down. It was the entrance to an underground cavern exposed by the flood. That Lyra said softly, pointing with weak fingers. Shelter. Ethan wasn't sure. The whirlpool looked dangerous, but staying out here meant certain death. He nodded. And together, they climbed down the twisted antenna, waiting for the water current to bring them close. When the chance came, they leaped into the flow. The current pulled hard, spinning them like leaves in a storm, until finally it dragged them. Into the cavern, they landed in darkness. Water filled half the cave, but there was dry stone above the surface. Gasping, Ethan crawled out first, pulling Lyra with him. For the first time since the flood began, they were out of the storm. The cavern walls glowed faintly with strange crystals, casting dim blue light around them. Ethan collapsed against a rock, breathing heavily. His clothes clung to him like chains, heavy with water, making every movement painful. Lyra sat nearby, her alien outfit drenched as well. Steam rose faintly from her skin, as if her body resisted the cold differently than his. We need fire, Ethan muttered. His voice shook from the chill. Lyra tilted her head, watching him struggle. Humans, weaker to cold? Ethan almost laughed. You think this is weak? I've survived worse. He pulled out his emergency kit, but the matches were useless to wet to spark. His hands trembled as he tried again and again. Lyra moved. Closer. She placed her hand on one of the glowing crystals, and to Ethan's shock, it began to burn brighter, spreading warmth into the air. The cavern filled with a soft heat, just enough to fight off the cold. You can do that? Ethan asked, surprised. Not me, she said. Crystal listens to my kind. Heat is natural here. Ethan sighed with relief, holding his hands out to the warmth. For a while they sat in silence, their wet clothes steaming slowly, but soon another problem became clear. The soaked fabric wasn't drying fast enough. Ethan's body shivered violently, his lips pale. Lyra studied him carefully. You will die like this. He forced a smile. I'll manage. Her eyes narrowed. Remove your covering. Let it dry. Your kind wears too much. Ethan froze. Her words made sense, but the thought of stripping in front of her made his heart pound. He shook his head. That's not. Humans don't just foolish pride, she interrupted calmly. She stood, unfastening her own armor-like outfit. With precise motions, within moments, her wet clothing was spread across a rock near the glowing crystals. Her skin shimmered faintly under the blue light. Marked with strange patterns like stars across her arms, Ethan quickly turned away, his face burning hotter than the crystals. You're insane. You will freeze, Lyra replied, sitting back down calmly. as if nothing was strange about it. The truth hit him hard. She was right. His body couldn't take the cold much longer. After a long pause, muttering curses under his breath, he pulled off his heavy jacket and shirt, placing them near the crystals. His chest felt raw from the cold air, but slowly warmth. Returned, they sat across from each other, half-dressed, surrounded by silence and dripping water. The tension between them was sharp, yet neither spoke of it. Both knew survival came first. After some time, Lyra broke the silence. "You saved me," she said softly. Ethan looked at her, confused. "What do you mean? You saved me too?" Her silver eyes glimmered. "My people say humans are selfish. They say you care only for yourself, but you pulled me from the water." Ethan shrugged, though inside her words stirred something deeper. "Maybe your people don't know us as well as they think." She tilted her head, studying him carefully, as if trying to solve a puzzle. For a moment she almost smiled, but then the cavern rumbled. A low, distant sound echoed through the stone walls. Something was moving in the tunnels deeper inside. Both of them turned toward the sound. Their brief moment of calm broken. "Not alone," Lyra whispered. Ethan reached for the small knife strapped to his belt. His clothes might be drying, his body warming, but now a new danger waited in the darkness, and for the first time, he realized the flood was only the beginning of their problems. The cavern was silent, except for the steady drip of water from the ceiling. Ethan's clothes were finally drying near the glowing crystals, and Lyra's strange markings shimmered faintly in the blue light. But neither of them relaxed. Echoing sound from deep inside the tunnels still lingered in their minds. Hours passed. The storm outside had ended, but inside the cavern a new kind of tension grew. Ethan sharpened a broken piece of metal he had found, turning it into a makeshift blade. Lyra sat quietly across from him, her sharp eyes watching every movement. She seemed calm, almost too calm, as if danger was something natural to her. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "So, do you always glow like that?" Lyra tilted her head, confused. "Glow." He pointed at the faint silver lines across her arms. "Those marks, they shine like stars." For the first time since they met, she gave a small smile. "They are not marks. They are my blood. When we are alive, it shines. When we die, it goes dark." Ethan blinked, unsettled, but fascinated. "That's kind of beautiful. And terrifying." Lyra studied his face carefully, as if measuring whether he spoke truth or mocking her. After a pause, she said, "Humans. Strange. You laugh in danger. You speak kindly to enemies." "Maybe," Ethan said, smirking faintly. "Or maybe I just don't like silence." Lyra didn't answer, but her gaze softened slightly. As the day went on, they explored the cavern together. The tunnels stretched far, twisting like veins beneath the flooded colony. Strange glowing fungi grew on the walls, and pools of crystal water shimmered under their light. Ethan tested the ground with each step, while Lyra moved like she knew the earth itself. At one point, the tunnel split into two paths. A faint growl came from the left. Ethan raised his improvised blade, tense. Lyra crouched low, her glowing eyes scanning the darkness. From the shadows a creature crawled forward, its body long, with sharp limbs and a jaw full of teeth. Before Ethan could strike, Lyra stepped ahead. She pressed her palm against the crystal wall, and suddenly the glowing fungi flared bright. The beast hissed, blinded by the light, and retreated quickly into the dark. Ethan exhaled in shock. "Okay, remind me never to fight you." Lyra looked at him calmly. "It was not me. The cave protects itself. My people learned to speak with it." "Still," Ethan muttered, shaking his head, "you knew how to do it. That saved us." She said nothing, but her expression carried pride. Later, when they stopped to rest again, Ethan found himself watching her. She was alien in every way. Her glowing skin, her calm voice, the strange way she connected to the world around them. Yet there was something familiar too. Something human, in the way she carried strength without arrogance. Lyra caught him staring. "Why do you look?" Quickly turned away. "Just trying to figure out what you're thinking." Her silver eyes narrowed. "You will not. My people are not like yours." "Maybe not," he admitted, "but right now we're the same. 2 survivors. That's enough." For a long moment they sat in silence. Then, to his surprise, Lyra leaned closer. "Your people call us enemies," she whispered. "But enemies do not save each other." Ethan looked at her, caught off guard by the softness in her voice. Something unspoken passed between them. The line between human and alien, between distrust and survival, grew thinner. But before anything more could be said, the cavern shook again. A deep rumble spread through the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, water roared, rushing through tunnels with force. Lyra's eyes widened. "The flood is coming back." Ethan grabbed his drying clothes quickly. "Then we move now." Together, they ran through the twisting tunnels, the sound of water chasing them like a beast. The bond forming between them was real, but the cavern, it wasn't going to give them time to understand it. For now, survival was still the only truth. The tunnels seemed endless. Ethan and Lyra ran until their legs ached, the roar of floodwater chasing them from behind. Finally, they reached a wide chamber where the water slowed into a pool, calm for now. Both of them stopped, catching their breath. The silence after the rushing sound felt strange, almost too heavy. Ethan set down his pack and listened carefully. It stopped, at least for the moment. But Lyra shook her head. Not stopped. Waiting water always finds the weak. "Stone?" Her words sent a chill down Ethan's spine. He was about to reply when another sound reached his ears, a faint metallic clang, followed by muffled voices. These were not echoes of the storm. Someone else was inside the cavern. Ethan instantly crouched low, motioning for silence. Glowing eyes narrowed as she listened. The voices grew clearer. "They weren't human," Lyra whispered, almost to herself. "Raiders." Ethan frowned. "Raiders? From your kind?" She nodded, her expression hard. "They follow storms. Where people drown, raiders hunt. They will strip the dead and kill the living." The thought of hostile scavengers inside this already dangerous cavern made Ethan's stomach knot. He gripped his makeshift blade tighter. Survival against nature was one thing, but survival against armed hunters was another. The voices drew closer. Shadows stretched across the crystal-lit walls. 2 figures entered the chamber, carrying strange rifles. Their skin was the same shade as Lyra's, but their markings were jagged and darker. Their eyes gleamed with hunger and cruelty. Lyra stiffened, pressing herself against the wall. Ethan looked at her, whispering, "Friends of yours?" My answer was cold. "No. My people fear raiders as much as humans do. But raiders fear nothing." The 2 aliens stepped closer, scanning the chamber. One lifted his weapon, pointing it toward the water as if expecting survivors to crawl out. Ethan's heart pounded. If they were discovered, it would be over. Suddenly, Lyra grabbed Ethan's wrist. "Follow me," she mouthed. She moved silently toward a narrow crack in the cavern wall. Ethan followed, careful not to splash the shallow water. They slipped into the shadows just as the raiders entered fully. From their hiding spot, Ethan could see the raiders clearly now. Their armor was pieced together from stolen scraps, their weapons old but deadly. They spoke in their own tongue, harsh and guttural. Lyra's face hardened as she listened. "What are they saying?" Ethan whispered. "They smell us," she answered softly. "They know survivors are here." Ethan's grip tightened on his blade. He hated feeling hunted. On Earth, he had faced storms, deserts, and wild animals, but this was different. Weren't forces of nature. These were thinking predators. The raiders split up, one moving deeper into the tunnels while the others searched the chamber. Ethan and Lyra crouched lower, breaths slow and quiet. The raiders' footsteps echoed closer. Any mistake, and the shadow would find them. Lyra leaned close to Ethan's ear, whispering, "If we fight, no noise. Quick kill." Her calm tone sent a shiver through him. This alien girl, who only hours ago was a stranger, spoke of killing as if it were a survival instinct. And maybe here it was. The raider stopped just a few steps away. His weapon swung left, then right, the faint glow of his eyes scanning the shadows. Ethan's muscles tensed. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. If the raider looked one step closer, he would see them, then dash crash. From deeper in the cavern, a rock fell, echoing like thunder. The raider jerked his head toward the sound and hurried off. Ethan let out a slow breath he didn't realize he was holding. That was too close, he muttered. Lyra shook her head. No, that was only the beginning. Raiders do not stop. Her words proved true. In the distance, more voices echoed. The raiders weren't just two, they were many. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Said, "Then we stay ahead of them. Together." Lyra met his gaze, her silver eyes steady. For the first time, there was no hesitation in her voice. Together, they slipped deeper into the tunnels, moving quietly through the glowing blue light. Behind them, the raiders' shadows grew longer, spreading like a dark net through the cavern. For Ethan and Lyra, survival was no longer about escaping the flood. Now, it was about staying one step ahead of enemies who hunted in the dark. And, in that hunt, their fragile bond would be tested more than ever before. The tunnels grew tighter, the air damp and heavy. Ethan and Lyra moved quickly, but every step carried the echo of raiders behind them. The shadows of their hunters stretched like claws across the crystal walls. Finally, they reached a dead end. A wide underground river blocked their way, its water black and rushing with terrifying force. The flood had carved a path through the cavern, leaving only one option: cross it. Ethan cursed under his breath. The current was too strong. One wrong move and they would be dragged into the depths. He turned to Lyra, shaking his head. "This is suicide." Lyra stared at the water, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. "It is not suicide. It is the only way." Ethan glanced back down the tunnel. The voices of raiders were getting louder. Their footsteps echoed, steady and confident. They had cornered their prey. Lyra stepped closer to the river, testing the current with her hand. Her skin shimmered where water touched it. "I can cross," she said quietly. "But you are heavier, slower." Her words cut, but Ethan knew she was right. The current would take him before he could reach the other side. He looked at her jaw tight. "Then you go. I'll hold them off." Lyra turned sharply, eyes wide. "No, alone, you die. Together, we have chance. Together." Ethan gave a bitter laugh. "You just said I'll drown." Lyra stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Then I carry you." Ethan blinked, stunned. "You what?" She nodded firmly. "My kind is strong in water. The current fights you, but it does not fight me the same. Hold to me. Trust me." The idea twisted in Ethan's mind. Trust her. An alien. A stranger he met only because of disaster? Every instinct told him not to. Yet deep down, he remembered every moment since the flood began. Her pulling him back from the wave. Her finding warmth in the crystals. Her warning him of the raiders. She had not failed him once. The footsteps grew louder. Shadows flickered at the tunnel's edge. They were out of time. Ethan met her eyes. "If I drown, this is on you." Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Then do not drown without waiting." She pulled him close, her arms surprisingly strong. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, holding tight as she stepped into the current. The water surged instantly, trying to rip them away, but Lyra moved with unnatural grace. Her body cut through the flow like a blade, each step steady, each motion precise. Ethan's chest tightened with fear as waves crashed against them. He buried his face against her shoulder, trying not to think of the endless dark below. Halfway across, the current grew wild, pulling them sideways. Lyra stumbled for the first time. Ethan felt the water drag at his legs, tearing him away. Panic shot through him. "I'm slipping." Lyra's grip tightened, her voice fierce. Trust me. With a burst of strength, she pushed off the cavern. Floor leaping through the raging water, it crashed hard against the far bank, rolling onto the wet stone. Ethan coughed, choking on water, his body trembling. But they were alive. He looked at her breathless. You actually did it. Lyra sat up, her chest rising and falling quickly, her silver eyes locked on his. You see now? Alone you are weak, with me, strong. Ethan laughed weakly, half from relief, half from disbelief. Yeah, guess I didn't have much choice. But the moment of relief ended quickly. Across the river, the shadows of raiders appeared. Their weapons glowed faintly in the darkness. They had found the trail. One of the raiders pointed at them, his voice echoing through the cavern. Ethan couldn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. The hunt wasn't over. Lyra stood, her wet hair clinging to her glowing skin. She held out a hand to Ethan. We move? No more hesitation? Ethan took her hand and pulled himself up. For the first time, he realized the truth. Trusting her wasn't just survival, it was now the only choice left. But as they disappeared, deeper into the tunnels, Ethan couldn't shake one thought. Trust always came with a price. Sooner or later, he would learn what that price was. The tunnels grew quieter the deeper they went. The roar of the river faded, and the echo of raider voices grew faint behind them. Ethan and Lyra walked side by side, their footsteps splashing softly in shallow water. For the first time since, the flood began. There was no storm, no rushing current, no immediate danger. Only silence. But silence did not bring peace. It brought questions. Ethan glanced at Lyra as they walked. Her silver eyes glowed faintly, the lines on her arms shimmering like constellations. She carried herself with steady grace, but something about her was different now. Too focused, too quiet. Finally, he broke the silence. You knew this place. It's the crystals, the way the water works, even how to cross it. You didn't just stumble here like me, did you? Lyra stopped walking. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she turned to face him, her eyes unreadable. You want truth? Ethan's gut tightened. Yeah, no more secrets. I need to know who I'm trusting my life with. Lyra stepped closer, her voice low. I was not here by accident. My people sent me. Ethan froze. Sent you? For what? Gaze did not waver. We knew the storm would come. We knew the human outpost would fall. My mission was to be here when it happened. Anger flared in Ethan's chest. You're telling me you planned this? You knew we would die? No. Lyra's voice rose for the first time, sharp with emotion. Not to kill you. To watch, to learn. Blade, so I'm some experiment, some test subject? Lyra's expression softened, almost pained. You do not understand. My leaders believe humans are dangerous. They say, you are too strong, too stubborn, too unpredictable. They sent me to see with my own eyes whether the stories are true, whether humans can be trusted. Her words hit harder than the flood ever could. Ethan's heart pounded, torn, between rage and disbelief. All this time, through storms, through raiders, through near-death, she had been hiding this. You lied to me? He said bitterly. Lyra shook her head, stepping closer. I did not lie. I hid truth. Because if I told you, you would not walk beside me. You would not survive with me. I would not see the truth of you. Ethan turned away, running a hand through his wet hair. His mind spun with anger. He wanted to hate her. He wanted to walk away. But then he remembered her pulling him back from drowning. Her carrying him across the river, her standing between him and the raiders. None of that was a lie. Why tell me now? He asked, his voice low. Lyra's eyes shimmered. Because choice is coming. The raiders will not stop. If they capture me, they will learn of my mission. If they capture you, they will break you. Both paths end in death. But together, maybe not. Ethan studied her carefully. For the first time, she didn't look like the calm, untouchable alien he had met. She looked vulnerable. Afraid not of the flood, not of the raiders, but of him. Afraid he would turn away. He let out a long breath. You risked everything. Just to know if humans are worth trusting? Lyra nodded once. And now I know. Ethan frowned. And what's the answer? Her silver eyes met his, steady and clear. That you are more than the stories. More than what my leaders fear. You fight storms. You fight shadows. And you fight. For others, even when you do not trust them. Her words struck something deep inside him. For a moment, the cavern around them faded. All that remained was the fragile bond between them, built on storms. Lies, survival, and truth. But the moment shattered as the ground trembled again. A low rumble echoed through the stone, followed by the distant sound of voices. The raiders had found their trail once more. Ethan clenched his jaw. Then no more secrets. From here on, we fight together, or we don't fight at all. Erez's hand tightened on the crystal blade she carried. Together, he turned toward the sound of the approaching raiders. The truth had been revealed, and trust had been shaken, but their choice was clear. The real test was just beginning. The raiders' voices grew louder, echoing through the tunnels like a hunting call. Ethan and Lyra stood side by side in the dim blue light, their bodies tense, weapons ready. Both knew this would be the final stand. There was no running anymore. First, shadows appeared at the far end of the chamber. Raiders poured in, their jagged armor glowing faintly, their weapons raised. Ethan's heart raced, but he forced himself to stay calm. Beside him, Lyra's silver eyes burned bright, her strange markings glowing stronger than ever. "Follow my lead," she whispered. The raiders charged. Ethan swung his blade with raw strength, cutting down the first attacker. Lyra moved with fluid speed, her hands pressing against the crystals in the walls. The cavern itself seemed to awaken, glowing bright as bursts of heat and light blinded the raiders. The air filled with shouts, gunfire, and the clash of steel. They fought as one. Ethan's stubborn strength and human instinct. Lyra's alien grace and knowledge of the cavern, they covered each other's weaknesses, turning every desperate move into survival. Again and again, they saved one another from death's edge. But the raiders kept coming. Ethan's arm bled from a cut, his body heavy with exhaustion. Lyra staggered, her glow dimming as she burned through her energy. The fight was endless, the enemy too many. Then Ethan saw at the underground river rushing just behind the raiders. An idea struck. Dangerous, but the only chance left. "Lyra," he shouted, "the water. Can you break the wall?" Her eyes widened, then narrowed with resolve. She pressed both palms against the cavern wall, her markings flaring brighter than ever. The crystals pulsed, the stone trembled, and with a deafening crack, the wall split open. A torrent of flood water exploded into the chamber, sweeping through the raiders like an unstoppable beast. Shouts turned to screams as they were dragged into the dark current. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her back just as the flood rushed past. Together, they clung to the rocks as the chamber filled with roaring water. When it finally calmed, the raiders were gun-swallowed by the flood they had tried to control. Silence returned. Ethan collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. Lyra sank beside him, her glow faint but steady. They were alive. Barely, Ethan laughed weakly, shaking his head. "You realize we should both be dead right now?" Lyra looked at him, her voice soft but firm. "But we are not, 'cause we were together." For a long moment they just sat there. Side by side, two survivors who should never have trusted each other, but did. Then, Ethan asked the question that had burned in his chest since her confession. "So what now? You go back to your people. Tell them what you learned about us." Lyra hesitated. Her silver eyes shimmered with conflict. "If I return, they will demand truth. They will want to know if humans are dangerous." Will you say? Ethan asked. She looked at him for a long time. She said quietly, I will tell them humans are dangerous, but not in the way they fear. Dangerous because you never give up. Dangerous because you fight storms, shadows, even death itself. And dangerous because when you trust, you change everything around you. Her words left Ethan speechless. He wanted to argue, wanted to deny it, but deep down, he knew she was right. They rose slowly, moving toward the faint light at the end of the tunnel. The flood had carved a new path leading upward. Beyond it, sunlight glimmered, breaking through. The mist at the tunnel's edge, Lyra stopped. She turned to Ethan, her voice quiet. This is where we part. If I walk beside you now, my people will see. They will know I chose you over them. Ethan's chest tightened. And if you leave, then maybe one day, when storms rise again, I will return. And maybe then, I will not walk away. Ethan wanted to stop her, to demand she stay, but he didn't. Because deep down, he understood their bond was real, but it was complicated. More than survival, more than trust, more than either of them could explain. She stepped into the light, her figure glowing against the rising sun. For a moment, Ethan thought she would disappear forever, but just before she vanished, she looked back. Her silver eyes meeting his one last time, and then she was gone. Ethan stood alone at the mouth of the tunnel, the floodwaters behind him, the empty horizon ahead. He didn't know what the future held for him, for her, for their two worlds. But he knew one thing. The storm had taken everything from him. And yet, somehow, it had given him something far more dangerous. Hope.